All right, so today we're going to talk about inflation. What's happening? How long is it going to happen? What are the indicators that we can look at and the things we can see to try and figure it out? Because inflation will not last forever. It can't, right? It's like a campfire, right? Eventually, it will rage on, it will burn hot, but eventually it'll burn itself out. Okay, and what we want to do, we want to position ourselves to be at a place. So once it burns out, we can go and we can sweep up the coals, right? We can get all the good stuff at all the assets at a cheap price. And again, this video is not financial advice at all, but I'm going to go over. It's more informational. I'm going to go over the what's happening, what I'm seeing, what I listened to from a guy named George Gammon today, which is he's awesome. You should subscribe to his channel, and what it made me think about, and my thoughts on the matter, and then what am I going to do? Where do I go from here type thing. So I'm not sure if you saw the report. This came out last week. It feels like a little old news, but it's still pertinent, right? Inflation rose to 9.1% in June, even more than expected, right? So what the Fed is doing is it's trying to fight inflation, and it's measuring monthly to see if what it's doing is working, right? If it starts to go down, they'll keep doing what they're doing until it gets to a rate that they want, right? If it goes up, they're going to crank it down even more, right? They're going to up what they're doing to try and crank inflation down. And again, a code word for fighting inflation is deflation, all right? I mean, there's not really a way around that. I mean, they can say it, they can put there's a lipstick on a pig, or they can put butterflies and rainbows around it, but that's what it is, right? Markets go up, markets go down. Okay, so inflation hit 9.1%. Now this is according to the Fed's Consumer Price Index, or the CPI, which people nickname it the CP lie, right? Why is that? Because I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel like 9%. Nobody feels 9%. Even ShadowStats says it's around, last time I checked, it was around 17%. So in reality, you take the CPI that the Fed gives you, and currently, this could change, but currently you double it and you get the typical average inflation rate, right? But what we're going to go into today is what is causing this, and how, and some things that you can look at and keep on your mind to show that the campfire may burn longer than we think it would, right? And so I'll let you guys read this as you want, but here's some things. Student loan repayments, right? So what is fueling this fire? What is fueling inflation? Well, it's people being able to spend more, right? And so, as we go through life, we can get into commitments, we get an education, we've got loans for that, we get a house, we get a car, we typically go into debt for those items. Sometimes we can pay them off in cash, but we typically have these things that we have purchased that we use credit for, or what that is money in the future that we are spending today, right? So in other words, if you buy a $500,000 house, you don't have $500,000 in the bank. You've got 100 grand. You put down your 50,000, maybe 100 for the 10 or 20%, right? And you got a $400,000 loan. That is $400,000 from your future that you'll be making, that you've pre-committed to, right? So that you can own the house, and a lender will put a little bit of interest on it, and you're happy because you get the house now, as opposed to in 5 or 10 years type thing, or however long it would take you, right? So we've got these pressures on us as we go through the day. The technical economic term is that affect our purchasing power, right? How much can we purchase if we choose to purchase, right? And we have these as your monthly bills, and this is normal, right? But what happens when you take those things off? Well, people tend to spend more, because not everybody's in the mindset of, okay, I've got that $400,000 mortgage. Well, I don't have to pay it for a year, so that that $1,500, $2,000, my monthly payment, I'm not just going to save that. I'm going to put it somewhere else. I'm going to spend it in the bank, do something else. We're going to get a nice car or whatever. Oh, look, we don't have to pay for that loan either. And things just get kind of snowballing. Not a lot of people say, hey, I'm just going to save it, knowing I have to pay it in the future. Or some people may be in a spot to where they can't pay for it now, so they're forced to push it down the line, and in hopes that they will be able to fix that problem in the interim, right? That's the people my heart go out to. Those are just hard spots. But my point is this: with less of the uh, with less of the pre how should I say this? With less of the pre-committed debt that we have to pay now, we get more spending power, and people spend, and that's why inflation. This is one of the reasons it's affecting our inflation. So let's take a look at those. There are a few big ones like student loan repayments, right? I think America is like one of the most uh, indebted for their education, right? In all of the world type thing. I was there myself. I paid off my student loans. Amazing feeling, amazing feeling. I think everybody should do that. But I also had to put myself through college, so I worked to get out of that. I digress. So here's the point: student loan repayment starts in less than 50 days. So it starts around August 31st or September 1st, right? What else happens in September? Well, let me back up. So right now, people don't have to pay their student loans back. I was actually talking with a doctor friend, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't have to pay my student loans right now, so we're saving up, and we're gonna." What his plan to do is he's just gonna pay it off in one giant lump sum and be out of student debt. I'm like, that's great, especially for a doctor, man. That's a lot of debt, and he's able to pay that off, which is amazing. So that is awesome. Good for him. But there's a lot of other people that aren't in that mindset, that they're just spending it right now, going on vacations, seeing their, as George Gavin put it, seeing their friends on Instagram, having the time of their lives, and they're like, okay, I'm going to go do it too. They want to be like the Joneses now, or the Kardashians, I guess it is the term for today's society, today's youth. But student loan repayments start sometime in September. Okay, so that is pushing back deflation. Or sorry, yeah, that's pushing back deflation. It's helping inflation, right? Um, Mortgage forbearance. I didn't know this. So let me go back. The CARES Act. I think we all knew this. That started December 31st. And extended. So basically, you can apply for forbearance, and then you got like 180 days. I think it's like 6 months to 12 months or something like that to not pay your mortgage, right? Let's see here if I can find it. Yeah. But here's the other thing. When is the deadline for applying, right? So they said that they made an amendment or announcement in 9/27/2021, almost a year ago, that you can still request COVID hardship forbearance as long as the national emergency, COVID-19 national, couldn't say that on the tubes, but as long as the national emergency is in place, right? If your loan is backed by Fannie or Freddie Mac, or is not currently, or has if you have a military loan or a VA loan or something like that, right? There's not a deadline for it right now. So in other words, I could actually request mortgage loan forbearance right now for these hardships, and I'm like, whoa, it's like 2 years away from COVID almost. I gotta stop saying that word on the YouTube now. My channel's gonna get banned. It's 2 years away from the cerveza sickness, as they call it, right? The 2020 cough. And so people can do this, and they can get 6 more months of not paying their mortgage, right? Like I said, 4 months / 3 to 6 months. So if people are hitting hardships right now because the money's drying up, well, they can just be like, oh, I'm gonna do forbearance, and then it lasts 6 more months, right? Some of them can go up to 12 months and maybe 18 months. It depends on the loan, right? So these things can be extended for another year or two, in a sense. And student loans, uh, those are coming due in September, right? You got to restart the payments. But what else happens in September? Well, there's a big midterm election, and politicians love to buy votes. Why? Because it's just easier. Let's put it that way. It's easier to buy votes. So they may extend the student loan repayment deadline, right? Another 6 months or something like that, or maybe 3 months or a year if they can, because this is going to keep inflation rising high, or at least steady, right? In other words, what we keep doing is we have these logs on the fire that aren't burning, but they're still producing heat. And kind of a weird example, right? They're not burning themselves out because We don't have to repay our loans or our mortgages or anything like that. So we can just spend that money elsewhere, right? We're not necessarily throwing more logs on the fire, but what we're doing is we're making that the resources that we have aren't spent on certain areas that we've already committed to, right? And so these are things um, that can help inflation last another possible year, right? I am convinced, this is my personal thought, that um, we could see inflation for the rest of the current president's term, right? That is a possibility and one we have to kind of face, all right? I'm not saying it will. I think it may crack before then, maybe sometime next year, because you can put all this stuff in, but the economy's still going to be the economy. In other words, you can shoot a ball in the air, and you can put more powder behind it. You can put more energy behind it to shoot up in there, but eventually gravity's going to take hold of it, right, and pull it back down. The economy's the same way. They can put a ton of stimulus, ton of everything in there, but eventually it's going to come back down to earth, and the principles that are tried and true, the economic principles, are going to take over. So it's only a matter of time. But it could be, I don't think we're going to see a big crash this year, right? I don't think we're going to see the beginning of it. What we're probably going to see is the beginning of stagflation, right? If we're not in it already. And stagflation is where your wages stay the same, but inflation goes up, so you have less purchasing power. In other words, you're making 4 or 5,000 a month type thing, and your grocery bill was $150 a week, and now it's $200 a week. Okay, well that's an extra $200 a month, and my gas bill, was $250 a month. Now it's $400 a month. Okay, well that's, you combine those two together, that's $350 a month. That's like your car payment right there. That's like an extra car payment or something like that. Or I've got a friend who's a contractor. He runs jobs all day. He told me, he's like, James, my I paid more in gas last month than my truck payment, like double, I was like, wow, wow. So these starts to bite into your purchasing power, into your net wealth, right? And so that is probably what we're going to see. And then eventually, it's going to be deflation, because economies go up, and then they can either just drop down, or they can go sideways for a while and then drop down. And I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see some sideways stagflation, where they try to stoke the fires a little more just to keep things going. But eventually we're going to come back down, and eventually we will deflate, and that's the time to buy stuff. So when will this happen? We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We have guesses, right? Jamie Dimon, here we go. He says, hey, yeah, it's going to get bad. He says, consumers still have 6 to 9 months of spending power, right? And this was June 2nd, so this was earlier this month. So he's saying, it's going to be until sometime next year, maybe middle end of next year, before consumers really start to hit the wall, okay? So I think we're going to have some stagflation behind that. And that's where we're at right now. So, and then we're going to deflate, right? So what am I doing now? Okay, James, this is good stuff, but what are you doing, man? Put your money where your mouth is. Okay, so I'm doing a few things, right? Right now, I'm actually investing in oil and gas, in commodities, right? I think that there is going to be a super cycle that comes up for it. So a lot of talk on the street and the economic forums and stuff like this are that, here's a few principles for you. One, no crash is ever the same. We always think it's going to be like the last crash. It never is, right? History repeats. History does not repeat. It rhymes, okay? So there will be an economic crash, but it's not going to look like the last one, right? But different cycles come up. Like there are small, short cycles, and then there are mega cycles and things in between. And so the last crash was the housing market, right? Housing market crashed really hard. It took stocks and everything else down with it, but not as badly. So in other words, if housing crashed 60%, stocks might have only crashed 40%, right? Or something like that. Before that, that was 2008. Before that, it was the dot-com bust in the 2000s, which really hit the stock market very, very hard, right? And before that, it was a commodities bust that happened, and I forget what year. But a lot of people are saying that this time, whatever breaks, We're not sure what's going to break first or what's going to what's going to be the worst broken. But when we pick up the pieces, there's going to be a commodity super cycle that happens, right? So in other words, in 2000, here's an example. When the stock market crashed, if you would have bought Amazon like $6, it would have been amazing. Amazon's like $3,000 right now or something like that, right? Because that was the stock market had a super cycle afterwards. Okay. If you bought a house anywhere in 2009, 10, 11, or 12, you pretty much doubled your money right now. And in my humble opinion, not financial advice. Well, I'll tell you this right now. I sold all my houses. I didn't think I'd sell them all, but I looked at the sticker price and I said, I cannot extract that wealth any other way besides a sale, and so I'm selling it. Right? I can go in that in a different video, but I sold it for about double what I bought it for, give or take. Right? That is a not a red flag, but that is an alert warning. Hey, your house is double price. Maybe you should think about selling. Maybe, or definitely at the very least refinancing, as long as you know what to do with that money. So the last crash was a housing crash, and then it entered into its super cycle. Right? People think that commodities that might be the next super cycle. We don't know if they're going to crash more than others, right? Certainly everything in a crash is going to go on discount, right? It's going to be like the sale of the century. But everybody's thinking, hey, it's commodities' turn to go up for a super cycle, because that's how they just kind of rotate, right? Will you get some discounts on real estate? Yeah. Will you get some discounts on stocks? Yeah. But what is going to go up the highest, the fastest, and pay you out the most dollar for dollar, right? And right now, in my mind, that's going to be oil and gas. It's a different commodity than, like, say, gold or silver or stuff like that. Those are important. Not wanting to poop on those at all. But in oil and gas, I get a monthly income for it. So as I go, I'm not talking about oil and gas stocks. I'm talking about investing in companies or mineral rights or hard assets, right? In other words, instead of buying like a real estate REIT or ETF online, you actually buy real estate, right? That's what I'm doing in oil and gas, because it gives me a really good monthly income. And right now I'm averaging like 30 to 45%, give or take, depending on oil prices fluctuation and what oil companies do. And it's amazing, right? And so where I position myself is I've dumped a lot of cash into it, and in the next year or so I'll get, depending on which location and stuff, I'll get 30 to 40% back of my cash, right? And if the market dumps next year, I'll probably have about just around 67% of my cash back, right? And I'm holding a hard asset, and to me that's a win. Okay, if I can pull out 70% of what I put in, still hold a hard asset, and everything takes a dump, I feel like I won in that equation, right? Because the hard asset's still going to be producing even through the cycle, it's just going to be producing less, okay? And I've got all that income from the 70% that I that I got back, that I've invested, that I can show lenders and say, hey, give me more money because look, I made money. These things just kind of cycle themselves up. So that's one of the things I'm doing. If you're interested in that, contact me. We can talk about it. We are looking for others to partner with and everything with that, who are interested in growing their wealth and who are interested in fully inflation protected assets that are completely passive. In my mind, there's not been anything else that's as amazing as this, and this is the time to do it, right? I probably wouldn't be buying too much oil and gas in 2013, 2014, because oil was going to stay down for a while, but now it seems like it's going to hit its super cycle, right? Another thing I'm doing, I'm holding cash. Like I said, that 67%, I'm not spending it, I'm just holding it. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I have a healthy amount of cash on, that I've got, just in case things do go on sale and discount, and I can buy them with my cash. I'm investing in myself, and so I am furthering some of my businesses. I've got some new partnerships I'm forming that will expand my wealth and everything like that. Also, taking classes and doing that to kind of prepare for it, right? Building connections now, building a network now to prepare for when the things crash, and I can just scoop them up with my partners. We can make, and then we can build our wells together. I had to do a video on partnership and how it's awesome. So, and then the last thing I'm doing, I'm just setting myself up for taking it easy and enjoying life. So, I'm cleaning up stuff. I'm kind of spring cleaning, getting the house cleaned up. Basically everything that I'm like, hey, if I move tomorrow, would I take this with me? I'm throwing out right now or selling, right? So I am in the process of doing that, and so I can get ready just in case things happen. And then eventually, I'd like to go on about a 6-month long trip where I just stay in a month as in a city for a whole month to just get to know it and understand the real estate and everything that's going on there in the economics of the city. So when things do go on discount, I can just kind of scoop in. I know the exact right places and everything, and I experienced this because I bought a house in Katy, Texas that it was this small 3-2 house, 1,300 square feet, 1,400 square feet, excuse me, but its rents were just as much as the 4-2 2,100 square foot guy had across the highway. Like, it was just a brilliant place. Like, I wish I bought 3 houses, 10 houses in that subdivision just like that, man, because the value, I sold it for just about as much as the 4-2 at 2,100 square feet across the highway. Like, it was just a gold mine, and it was one of the ones where I looked at it and said, I don't think I'm ever going to sell this. And then I saw how much it went up in 2 months, and I looked at myself and I said, that's California prices. California goes up that fast, not Texas. And I said, okay, I've got to sell this guy. There's no, I redefined it a year ago, and the equity is still so high, I've got to sell it. So sold that and reinvested into oil and gas mineral rights, and like, it's been amazing, absolutely amazing so far. So that is what I'm doing. Do me a favor, post your comments, post your questions, post your thoughts on here. I want to hear what you guys have to say about inflation. What do you think is happening? Do you think we're going to bust? Do you think housing is just going to go up, 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 up because it hasn't really crashed yet? Do you think oil is going to go up, 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 up? Or we're going to have a correction? What are your thoughts? What are your questions? Let me know, and I can do a video to where I respond to them. So with that, I will talk with you guys later. Peace out.